Sentily my down what? I want sentily my down what? Sentily my down what? I want sentily my down what? And I know why it is you. I want sentily my down what? Yeah, it's not the worst. It's just this word down what? We don't want everybody. Well, I don't bring to your desktop. What do you mean now? Curious of labor, but you don't go discuss another one. Now we are taking one. What are you not taking? INEC is now abroad. He said, how can INEC board declare Tinibu winner? 29th of May is at the corner. Watch the video and tell me what you think will happen on that 29th of May. Come on, thank you so much. Watch the video, come on. Before you comment and before you watch the video, listen, come on, make sure you...
So let's go straight into it. Now we're having the plaintiffs asking for a declaration extension of President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, pending when a successor is determined in accordance with the Constitution. Now this is because of this 25% securing of votes that has been the bone of contention regarding the results of the general elections, 2023 general elections that had the results have the president-elect Bola Tinibu as winner. What are your thoughts on this regarding this particular matter that is now pending in court?
Shay, good morning. Good morning, Steve. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be on with you. Interestingly, as we discuss our country and our politics today, fundamentally, we're looking at how we make our democracy responsible and responsive to the people. We're looking at how we abide by the intentions, the intendment, and the rationale behind the draftsman's position on Section 134, 2B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, and, as it were, the provisions of Section 135, 1, of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. But let me say clearly and with every sense of commitment that those who are saying that the time to make our democracy effective, efficient, and effectual are the ones who are right here. You asked if the tenure of Mr. President can be extended to allow for the adjudication, for the litigation, for the matters in court to be fully determined. And the answer is, it is not about extension, it is about what the Constitution envisages. And I hope that the Honorable Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Minister of Justice are listening. I hope that the DG, DSS is listening. I hope that our esteemed jurist and Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is listening, because this is very important. We're at that point in our democracy when we must do things properly. We must work within the precincts of what is right, proper, and right. And I say without any sense of equivocation that it is not about calling for an extension. It is about a position envisaged by law, that we may at some point in our historicity, at some point in our nationhood, get to this situation where we must look at the Constitution for direction. And so nobody's saying extend the tenure. The Constitution says that the tenure of a president, the sitting president, can continue until such a time when a new president takes an oath of office and is subject simply to the situations envisaged by the Constitution. We must effectively determine who becomes the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And Section 134 2B clearly states, without equivocation, that a man who must sit as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must win 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory. Must is the word. Because if you look at the Constitution, you see that it clearly says that you would win 2/3 of the states, including 25% of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. And what does it envisage? Look at the law. Look at the intention of the draftsman. Across the nation, you're expected as a governor to win two-thirds of the local government, 25% of two-thirds of the local government in the state. And the reason is because the draftsman envisages that a man who must be governor must be popular, must have a wide spread, must have an acceptability of sorts within the state. And then who superintends over Nigeria from Abuja, who is indeed constitutionally the governor, if you like, of Abuja, is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And Abuja runs as an exceptional territory. He does superintend over Abuja through the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory and the Abuja Development Agency, that's Federal Capital Development Agencies. What does he do? The president who must superintend over Abuja must be deemed to be popular, must be deemed to have won 25% of the votes in Abuja. So the matter in court, essentially, for which we are going to be at the Federal High Court in Abuja, Maitama, tomorrow, is simply saying that you should not swear in a man as president until the court determines his status as president-elect or president-select. Mark my use of words, and I'm saying this without equivocation. Now, if the law says that he must win 25% of Abuja, do the citizens, indigents, residents of Abuja who voted have the right to ask that the man who must superintend over Nigeria from Abuja wins 25% of the votes cast in Abuja? The answer is a capital letter yes. So the argument is before the judge to determine whether he can ask for an extension of the swearing of the president until this matter is determined. And the answer is capital letter yes. I'll read to you Section 135 of the 1999 Constitution. Section 135, sub 1 says, without doubts, Steve, listen, listen. It says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, a person shall hold the office of president until when the successor in office takes the oath of office.
What section? What section is that?
B says.
Professor Nwakubia, what section of the Constitution is that?
Section 135(1).
Okay, all right, go on.
Section 135(1) of the 1990. And then subsection 1B says he dies whilst holding such office, or subsections 135(1)C says the date when the resignation from office. And then sub D says he otherwise ceases to hold office in accordance with the provisions of the law, you know, impeachment and all that. Now, what so many people hold as sacrosanct is sub 2, section 135(2) of the 1999 Constitution, which says that subject to the provision of subsection 1, subject to subsection 1 of this Constitution, the President shall vacate his office at the expiration of a period of 4 years, commencing from the date when. Now, you look at the subsections, you understand. Now, subsection 1 holds superintendence, holds preeminence over subsection 2. And what are we saying? That we must determine whether the man who is president-select has truly won the presidency as explicitly stated by the Constitution. And the answer is a capital letter no. Mark my choice of words, Steve, mark my choice of words, say, you know, when we talk about our democracy, democracy must be predicated on the rule of law. Democracy is not wistfulness or wishfulness. Democracy is about rule of law. It's about situating governance on the will of the people expressed through the electoral system. And on the February 25th, Nigerians went out to vote. Albeit Nicodemously, on the 1st of March at 4 a.m., a certain individual was declared president-select. My choice of word advisedly, and I'm ready to face anything for it. So he was declared. Did he meet the provisions of the Electoral Act? Did he meet the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, sections 134, 2B, and sections 135? The answer is no. And so what must we do? Are we going to go ahead on the May 29th to swear in a president who didn't meet the constitutional provisions? These were the arguments of Dati Baba Ahmed when he clearly stated that any attempt to swear in the president-select on the 29th of May will be dealing a murderous blow on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and by extension, dealing a fatal blow on democracy. And I say here,
all right,
with a sense of responsibility.
Prof. Wakobia, sorry to
that
cut
the
you.
reason we're in court, Steve, let me chisel this in, please, Steve.
Okay, all right.
The reason we're in court is to ensure that we help our democracy. The reason we're in court is to ensure that the justices help us to protect our democracy and ensure that those who live in Abuja are protected not only by the Constitution, but by the judicial process.
All right, I mean, that's fine, but let's stay with the facts. And the facts of the matter is that there is a president-elect for Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinibu, who was duly declared the winner by INEC after that election. Yes,
albeit against the law. Albeit against the law.
No, I do not know of the law that it was against, but you have done the needful as a member of the UB Dati presidential campaign to go to court, the same way that the PDP presidential candidate and the party, which came second, by the way, have also gone to court to challenge the declaration of INEC. So my point, staying with the fact, is that we can't use the word president-select here. Is the president-elect. Inauguration will happen on May 29th, except a law decides otherwise. My question to you, however, two-pronged questions. First is that I like the fact that you have... Can you hear me, President Wakobia?
Now I can, yes.
Can you? Okay, all right. So I said I needed to clarify what the facts, were before asking the question. And my questions are, I like the fact that you brought in the important sections of the Constitution, namely section 135 2B, and of course 134 2B and 135 1. But then that will have to be determined by the court as to at what point does the tenure of a sitting president, expire. That will be determined by the court. The other question will be, what is your direct interest in the suit that that will be in court tomorrow by the 5 Abuja residents? Are you involved? Are you part of those who filed that particular court? Because I know, of course, that yes, part of the prayers of the Labour Party and Mr. Peter Obi is for the in their petition is for the court to determine, the tribunal to determine whether, having not met the constitutional requirement of scoring a minimum of 25% in Abuja, if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinibu can be duly said to have been, elected. But then, your own case has started in court. This is a totally different case altogether. My question to you is, what's your involvement in this one? And if there is an expedited hearing and the court dismisses it, do you think that that will have affected the core essence of your own petition as far as the 25% score in FCT is concerned?
Steve, let me say clearly that I live in Abuja. Steve, I'm a voter in Abuja. My polling center is Wuse Zone 6. I have the right under the law to ask that the man who must superintend over me in Abuja meets the provisions of the Constitution. And clearly, without equivocation, without any modicum of doubt, without any doubt whatsoever, the President-elect did not meet the requirements of the Constitution. And INEC nicodemously declared him president for whatever reason. And as I talk to you, we know that the learned judges who superintend at different layers of the judiciary of the courts would do right, because there comes a time in the history of a nation and a people when the odds are about fixing a system and making right a terrible situation. And that's where we are. You know, it's not necessarily about Labour Party here. It's about what is proper, right, and right. You know, the PDP is in court against the declaration of Bola Ahmed Tinibu as president on the 1st of March 2023. The Labour Party is in court contesting the same situation, and several other parties. And I say here, Steve, that everyone who's saying that he was not validly declared, he was not supposed to have been declared, are simply patriotic. They're saying that the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must be strictly followed. And without equivocation, Steve, you did note in this question that the demands of Section 134 2B are almost very clear. You know, when you use the word "and," 2/3 of 36 states "and," if you subject it to the golden rule of statutory interpretation, it says to you, look for the intention of the legislature. If you subject it to the literal rule of statutory interpretation, it says to you, look at the grammar. And it's conjunctive. That's point number one. And suggests that when you have 24 states across the country, you should also have 25% in Abuja. Now, look at the intention of the legislator. That's the golden rule. The intention is that the man who must superintend over Nigeria as president in Abuja must be popular in Abuja. He must have 25% of the votes cast in Abuja. He must be deemed to be our president. Those living in Abuja must own him. The question is, do those in Abuja own Bola Ahmed Tinibu? And the answer is no.
By your interpretation,
the courts do what is proper, right, and right.
Prof,
the answer is yes.
By your interpretation,
no, that's the interpretation, Steve.
I'm saying, just hold on 1 second. I'm saying that by your interpretation, you are saying that if a winner, and in this case, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had won in 30 out of the 36 states of the federation and won the popular vote, as it did by what INEC was declared, but failed to meet 25% in Abuja, you are saying by the intendment of the Constitution, it cannot be declared the winner.
That's right.
Okay.
Let me say this: had he won 36 states of the country, had he won 36 states of the country and not won 25% of votes cast in Abuja, he shouldn't be declared president-elect. And that's the intendment of the draftsman of the Constitution, because he must be popular in the state where he wants to superintend over Nigeria from. Steve, let me make you look at this clearly. The president is the governor of Abuja. Are you aware? He superintends over Abuja through a commissioner who is the Federal Capital Territory Minister. And he has one senator. He has about 6 or so House of Reps members. Abuja is entirely politically different from the states. You can't lump Abuja into the status of a state. Anywhere the Constitution wants Abuja to be considered as a state, it doesn't clearly state so. But with respect to winning or becoming a president-elect or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Constitution was clear and unambiguous.
But Section 299,
2B,
Section 299 says clearly that Abuja will be considered like, like a state.
with respect to certain normative, not election matters, with respect to revenue, allocation, and several other things, not with respect, because in terms of governmental structure, Abuja is unique. Abuja has the president, quote unquote, as a governor. He has a minister of federal capital territory superintending over the state, over Abuja as the minister, as a commissioner, so to say. And then beyond that, the Federal Capital Development Authority is under him. And let me say without an ounce of equivocation that to try to drag in Section 239 into this discourse is being mischievous and smart by half. The truth is that everyone who knows and who reads the Constitution, and even a layman in law who understands simple English language, Steve, you are a writer, you are a journalist, you are an editor, you're someone I respect so very much. You understand that when you say 2/3 of the states of the Federal Republic, the states in the country, and Steve, even my 20-year-old son knows that it's clearly saying, when you meet this, you should also meet this.
Yeah.
And so those who are dancing around this reality are being smart by half. And I know that the learned justices of the Federal Republic of Nigeria had in 2004, 2005, and again in 2008, 2007, 2008, decided on these issues. And without an ounce of equivocation, they said clearly that you have to win 25% of Abuja to be declared president of the Federal. So I do not know what informed Mahmoud Yakub's declaration of Bola Ahmed Tinibu, albeit Nicodemously, on the 1st of March 2023 as the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is why, knowing the provision, Steve, let me, in 1 minute, knowing the provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that is why yours sincerely, Professor Chris Mustafa Nwokobia Jr., the convener of the Country First Movement, will continue consistently until the courts determine the substantive matters, refer to Bola Ahmed Tinibu as the president-select, not of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if you like, but of INEC.
Okay, so it's interesting that that you've brought this up, because the argument of the Independent National Electoral Commission is that it's insisting that a candidate doesn't have to secure 25% of the votes in the FCT to be declared the winner, because the FCT was not accorded any special status in the Constitution as it's erroneously being portrayed. And it's based on that decision that they went ahead and declared Bola Ahmed Tinibu as the president-elect, who is going to be inaugurated in just a few days. So if that is the format that has been followed up until this moment, are we looking at maybe the interpretation of the law in this scenario as opposed to an outright turnover of what it means?
Shay, interestingly, you have, in your question, hit the bull's eye. Shay, if you were to land in Abuja at the airport, what you see is the Federal Capital Territory. You do not see, like if you were to land in my home state of Delta, welcome to Delta State. You see, welcome to the Federal Capital Territory. The Federal Capital Territory is a unique and distinct territory where the president superintends, as it were, not only as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but even if you were to borrow the state structures, the governor of the Federal Capital Territory. As you and I talk, the reason we're in court, and I'm going to be in court, and Nigerians are going to be in court tomorrow, is simply to ensure that those who live in Abuja have a president who wins as provided by the Constitution 25% of the votes in Abuja. Then number two, our argument is not creating a vacuum because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in section 135 clearly provides for this kind of situation. Until the matter is determined, the subsisting president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in this case President Muhammadu Buhari, has the right under the Constitution. There's no vacuum. There's no call for an interim government to remain in power as provided by the Constitution until these substantive matters are determined. And that's why I appeal to the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Malami, to take note and advise the President properly. If the President is too tired to continue, then let the Vice President, Yemi Osibajo, continue until these matters are determined. Let nobody blue Joan us. Let nobody railroad us. Let nobody force us into a 29th of May handover. The Constitution does not envisage that. It says that 29th of May in subsection 135(2) is subject to the provision of section 135(1). And so we need to know whether the president-elect is validly elected as provided by the law. And so what I am doing today is, in actual fact, Steve, in actual fact, Sheyi, a great service to the law and the Constitution, a great service to our democracy, was saying that the law must be followed simpliciter. The law must be followed and the intentions of the draftsman effectively complied with. And I say here that Nigerians want a president who is not only popular, but a president that connects with them. Steve, Sheyi, as I speak to you, you wonder how and where the president-elect got to where he is. Kano, he didn't win. Abuja, he didn't win. Lagos, he didn't win. Kaduna, he didn't win. Katsina, he didn't win. So how did he get these votes? One of the greatest poets in human history that I respect, Sir Walter Scott, once said, and I quote, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when vexed we practice to deceive." And so all we have had since February the 25th is a litany of hubris, deceit, chicanery, and perfidy. And I think that the time has come for us to put a hole in this gamut of deceit.
Okay, I wonder if the candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, still shares this sort of enthusiasm that the election can be upturned. The reason why I'm asking is, a few days ago in Noka, Anambra State, his home state, at the launching of a book in his honor, he made a declaration that suggested to Nigerians that maybe reality was dawning on him that an inauguration was about to take place and that the president, who might spend the whole 4 years, will move in. And he simply said that, yes, he would like to be the president of Nigeria. He knows that he will be the president of Nigeria, but that he may not be today, but it will be tomorrow. The interpretation that a lot of people are giving to that is that, oh, Mr. Peter Obi has finally realized that Asiwaju is coming and that he will be inaugurated on May 29th, and that if the courts decide as it's looking like, he will just have to wait for his time. Is that the reality that has suddenly set in?
Steve, some of us, by God's grace, are close to the president-elect. And I use my words advisedly, the one that Nigerians voted for. Some of us, by reason of relationship and consistency, have access to him. If there is anyone who's enthusiastic, if there's anyone who has unshakable faith in the judiciary, if there's anyone who has amazing and monstrous confidence that the courts will do right, it is Peter Gregory Obi. He hasn't lost faith in the fact that the mandate that the Nigerian people gave to him on the February the 25th will be returned to him. Not an ounce of doubt. And Steve, as a leading obedient, for me, not an ounce of doubt. For millions of Nigerians in the diaspora and at home, not an ounce of doubt. We believe that the judiciary will do right. We believe that the Constitution will be upheld. We believe that May 29th is not sacrosanct because the judiciary will wake up to the realities of the provision of Section 135, sub 1 of the Constitution and determine whether the man who INEC selected to be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was validly elected. Our democracy must grow better than it is today. And we, Steve, with all sense of respect, I was one of those who struggled, and you know that. As a 22-year-old, I was involved in the Hope 92 campaign in 1993. Steve, I was one of those detained several times in the battle for the actualization of June 12. I've consistently remained on this course. Steve, I believe that the battles that we fought, I believe that the battles that took the life of Chima Obani, several young boys and young girls in the desire for a new Nigeria will not be in vain. Steve, I believe that the call of the obedience for a new Nigeria, where leadership is responsible and responsive to the people, will not be like the wait for Godot. Steve, I believe that a new Nigeria is in the horizon, and I believe that the judiciary will do right. And my faith is not outlandish. My faith is rooted in that inimitable quotes of James Russell Lowell, who said, and I quote him, "Truth on the scaffold, falsehood on the throne. That same truth sways the future. For behind the dim unknown standeth God in the shadows, keeping watch over his own." Truth forever on the scaffold. No matter how you hold it down, it will come up. It will overtake falsehood. Our battle is a battle of light over darkness, truth over falsehood, hate over love. And you know what? All over the country, across Nigerians in diaspora, there's a dim unknown. Like you stated, 29th of May is just next door. And people are asking themselves, what will happen with our mandate? Will this man be sworn in on the 29th? And I said to you, Steve, and to Nigerians who are listening to me, behind the dim unknown standeth God, keeping watch over Nigerians, understanding that the time for a new day and a new deal is now. The time for a new republic is now. The time for a new tendency in governance is now. The time for a watchman who is responsible and responsive to the people is now. And Steve, nothing can stop it. So Peter Gregory Obi is not in doubts about the morrow. And the obedience across the world are not in the doubts in any modicum, any way about the morrow. I am confident that something will give because the learned justices at different strata, the court tomorrow, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, and the Supreme Court will do what is right because the time to take our country out of the jangling discord of inanity, disease, decay, despondency, and want is now. The time to build a highway of righteousness and leadership is now.
Okay, very quickly before we go, Professor Wakubia, the Presidential Election Petition Court, of course, against the petition brought against the president-elect by the Labour Party and its presidential candidate has been adjourned to Wednesday, next May 17th. But there has been an application filed asking that the proceedings of the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal be televised. Very quickly, I want to know what your thoughts are on this and if that would actually influence the outcome. In 1 minute, please.
That would do a lot. That would do a lot, Sheyi. Nigerians want access to whatever transpires or whatever happens at that tribunal. And I think that the argument by the Labour Party as well as the PDP is opposite. I think that it is strife, and I believe that the learned justices would oblige that request. I think, like I said, that the time has come for us to walk the highway of righteousness and ensure that things are done properly in our country. The time to shoot down impunity is now, and the time to begin to build a country where our children and our siblings will be truly proud of the nation, of the green wine green, is now. I am confident that there is an emergent Nigeria that will make all of us truly proud, and that the waters of justice, the waters of love, the waters of equity, the waters of unity will sprout again, and you and I will be proud to be called citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.